I'll give my thoughts on why he might have stopped carnivore, because I am actually sort of curious myself.
The end of that story, or the next chapter of the story, was about 2 years into the carnivore diet. I started noticing persistence of unpleasant symptoms. So testosterone dropped to around 500 total, sleep disturbances, palpitations, muscle cramps when I was surfing or climbing. And I started to think, okay, maybe long-term ketosis is not great for me. And I was definitely in ketosis at the time, monitoring blood ketones with a meter, not deep ketosis, but definitely ketosis. And so at that point, I started to dig into the research a little bit more and understood that insulin signaling is critical at the level of the kidney to hold on to minerals, to hold on to potassium, calcium, sodium, chloride, magnesium, and that in long-term ketosis in most humans, you're going to become so electrolyte depleted that it's almost impossible to resolve that with enormous amounts of electrolytes, right? You can take all of the electrolytes you want. You can do so much salt. Your body's really not going to be able to hold on to those without some sort of an insulin signal at the level of the kidney. I've experienced this. Tons of people experience this with long-term ketosis. So at that point, I had to really...
Okay, so I have a couple things. I'm not really too sure because I've been carnivore for 2 years, and he says he's been having like spasms and cramps. I haven't had those. So, but he did say a couple things which were very interesting before this. He said that I ate basically nothing but meat, organs, and specifically he said organs. Now, this is something I think is not necessarily talked about too much, and and I talk about this in my vitamin and mineral interactions video. So if you know how vitamin and mineral interactions work, you would know that if you're eating organs all the time, and I mean all the time, like regularly, nonstop, every day, you're eating organs, I'm not too sure that's going to work out. And the reason has to do with the fact, especially if you're eating the same organ, most likely. And the reason has to do with the fact that you're putting yourself in a position where so in vitamin and mineral interactions, either you, let's just take vitamin E for instance. So vitamin E and iron. Well, vitamin E and iron, they sort of like do this competition thing. And if there's too much vitamin E, then that means you absorb less iron. Or maybe selenium and zinc, same thing. Where if you absorb like tons of zinc, then you absorb even less selenium. So if he's saying that he's having electrolyte deficiencies, which it could be possible he's having electrolyte deficiencies, then my assumption from this would be the fact that he is eating like a lot of organ meat. The composition of organ meat, it is very, very heavily favored for being very high in like vitamins and minerals, and that's like kind of great and all until you sort of learn that like, oh wait, if I have tons of vitamins and minerals and they're not necessarily balanced, then I'm not actually going to be absorbing a lot of this. So I'm not really... I think it has to do with the fact that he was eating a lot of organs. That's my assumption. It could be organs. It could be something else. I'm not necessarily sure what he was eating when he was carnivore. For me, for the most part, I pretty much just eat beef, a lot of beef. I don't really eat too much organ meat. I rarely have organ meat. I'll sort of have that like once every 3 days, maybe. I definitely don't have that much organ meat. I'm not too sure, but we'll hear what else he has to say.
Kind of look at what I was doing and make this sort of learning judgment that long-term ketosis was not a great thing for me and probably not a great thing for most humans. And at that point, I added honey and then fruit to my diet, and it's been an evolution since then for probably the last 3 years. So now I've been eating fruit, honey as my main sources of carbohydrates, maple syrup, raw milk, the lactose in raw milk for going on 3 years now and feeling much better. Testosterone is 800, free testosterone is great. Sex hormone binding globulin goes down. We'll talk about this. Free T3 goes back up. Thyroid hormones improve. Cholesterol, lipids go down. Still, my LDL-C or my LDL-P is above what many people would consider to be.
If he really is getting his increase of insulin from fruit, I think that's a bad idea. even if you go off of carnivore, I think your increase of insulin should be coming from milk. I don't think it should be coming from fruit, because fruit has phytotoxins. That's not helpful. Milk doesn't have phytotoxins. I would say the inflammatory response and the fiber, because the fiber is a pretty big deal, especially for people with gut autoimmune problems, anyways, like me, for instance. So I don't necessarily think this is fully true. And also, there's another thing. The fact that I'm not too sure. I haven't tested this out. I haven't tried it. Maybe I'll try it eventually. But ever since being carnivore, like full carnivore, I have not brushed my teeth. And because of that, that's a really, really big deal, because I know that going full carnivore will make it so that your teeth are always clean. Because I went to the dentist. Even the dentist couldn't tell that I didn't brush my teeth for an entire year at that time. So I know that carnivore works, especially when it comes to clean teeth. And I'm pretty sure humans did not brush their teeth before. So I look at this and I go like, if that's the case, then I would probably rather say milk. I definitely would not say fruits and vegetables. 100%. If he says fruits, like, okay, definitely better than vegetables anyways. I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure about this. I don't think getting your insulin from fruits is a good idea.
Sometimes meet me or they talk to me now. They say, hey, I want to go on a carnivore diet. And I say, you mean an animal-based diet, right? And that's just a term that I think the term came the first time I was on a podcast with Joe Rogan. He kind of coined that term and we ran with it. I think of animal-based as just a framework. Like, okay, most of your diet is animal foods, at least in terms of calories. And I think most of my diet is now, it's organs, it's grass-fed meat, it's butter, it's tallow, it's...
Okay, he says a lot of organ stuff, so it really is making me think organs. But I would, at the very least, I will agree with him on the fact that if you're not going carnivore, at the very least, going animal-based is like a much, much better option than not eating much animal meat. Because when it comes to health, like, the meat is just way too important. Like, way, way, way too important. I can't stress the importance of meat when it comes to vitamins and minerals, proteins, when it comes to oxidative stress, when it comes to polyunsaturated fat content, when it comes to deuterium. I mean, like, it is just, it's not even comparable. It's so important. So yeah, at the very least, I'll agree with him. I'll agree with him that animal based is good. It's good. It's not the best option. I don't think it's the best option, but I definitely think that it's healthy and it's good.
Raw milk. And then I get a significant amount of calories from carbohydrates in the form of fruit juice, honey, etc. So,
okay. If he's talking calories, then it sort of makes me think that he doesn't really know that calories don't matter at all. Like, it's always based on hormones. It's always based on hormones. So specifically, it's always based on insulin and glucagon, either being anabolic or catabolic. So once again, I definitely don't. I don't like the calories thing. Whenever I hear calories, I get really skeptical because I already know that thing, that's just fake. Calories don't. The law of thermodynamics is very selective in human bodies.
Yeah, so that's an animal-based diet, and I think that works a lot better for most people. Now, to be fair, and what's interesting about this is a lot of people would look at that diet and say it's still very restrictive, quote unquote. And we can talk about that because what am I excluding in an animal-based diet? I'm not eating grains. So white rice is kind of a gray area, but I don't eat white rice. I don't eat oats. I don't eat wheat. I don't eat beans. I don't eat...
Okay, well, everything that he's saying right now is really good. Don't eat white rice. I'm going to have to agree with that. Don't eat beans. Please, God, do not eat beans. They have lectins in them, and if you want to ruin your stomach like me, you will eat beans. I ate so many beans when I was young. I remember eating beans a lot when I was younger, and it wrecked my stomach. The lectins will destroy your stomach if you have gut autoimmune problems, especially.
I don't eat seeds. I don't eat nuts. I don't eat leaves.
No nuts. Thank God. No cyanide. So already, a lot of things I will have to agree with him on. Like, even though I don't necessarily fully agree on the not being carnivore thing, in terms of not being optimal health, I definitely have to agree with a lot of this stuff.
And a lot of those foods are considered to be healthy by the mainstream. And so that is a similarity from carnivore that I've carried over, but I have started including carbohydrates in the form of the fruit and the honey. And the reason I do those, the intentionality there is if you look at a plant and a plant's life cycle, the intention of the plant is to move its seeds to the next generation in a colorful, sweet fruit. And if you look at plant foods and you look at overarching terms like defense chemicals, the lowest amounts of defense chemicals are in the fruit. That's pretty clear.
Okay. Yeah, but the problem I would have to say once again, plants today are nothing like they used to look 200 years ago or 10,000 years ago. They're not even close. If you look at how they really looked, you wouldn't even be able to tell what corn originally looked like. It doesn't even look edible because it probably isn't. So I'm not really too convinced on that part. Do I think you can eat them, even the inedible version of corn or the original version of corn? Yes, you can eat it, but it's not really healthy, and you're not really going to get much nutritional value out of it. In fact, you're going to be probably lowering nutritional value.
And the lowest amounts of those defense chemicals actually occur as the fruit ripens. So you can see all sorts of defense chemicals. We can talk about interesting examples if you want, or we can go deeper in the lipids. But things like non-protein amino acids, these are lower, and other plant defense chemicals, they're lower as the fruit ripens. So there's these signals within the plant kingdom that say, hey, this food is less toxic once I'm ready for that seed to go germinate, and that's when I want you to eat it. So that's where I am.
I'm not too convinced. Once again, I am definitely not convinced, especially on plants wanting to be eaten. And I have a video on why plants are literally killing themselves. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it has to do with, if you look at plant biochemistry, you would know plants are literally killing themselves at like such a rapid rate. It's insane. I mean, literally, it's like genuinely crazy, because every one out of every 4 times their rubisco enzyme generates a reactive oxygen species, or around 1 out of every 4 times. And that's a really big deal, because that means that plant has to clean that stuff up. And not only does it have to clean it up, if it doesn't clean it up, and if it doesn't produce the right antioxidants, or enough antioxidants to deal with that stuff, then it's going to end up causing lipid peroxidation. And once again, plants are far more susceptible to lipid peroxidation than animals, and just because they have such high levels of polyunsaturated fat content, like really, really high levels of polyunsaturated fat content, especially in comparison to animals. Anyways, so yeah, I don't think that it's, once again, I'm definitely not gonna agree on that part, because I don't think that plants want you to eat them ever. Same thing with an animal, and no animal ever wants to be eaten. I think the exact same thing applies to plants, except like very, very few exceptions, where certain seeds, for instance, will be eaten by specific birds. And if they're not eaten by that specific bird and they're eaten by something else, that will kill them. It'll just completely kill them. So once again, I'm not really too convinced on. So yeah, this is what I think on Paul Saladino's thing. I think it mostly has to do with the fact that he was eating tons of organ meat. I don't think that it has to do with being in long-term ketosis. I definitely don't think it has to do with being in long-term ketosis. I don't think so. I haven't experienced any muscle spasms or cramps or any of this stuff that he's talking about. So yeah, I'm not having that problem. I don't know how he's having that problem, but he is. He says he is, and my assumption was because of organ meats. That's the only thing I can think of, anyways. So yeah, once again, thanks for watching. If you found the video helpful, then please like, share, subscribe, and comment down below, because it really does help the channel grow. And if you want to see more videos like this ahead of time, then please click the join button down below, where you can support me personally, as well as see all of my videos ahead of time. So once again, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace. Pew.